Have you noticed how certain people seem uncomfortable when a truly elegant man enters the room? I saw this happen when Ryan Gosling appeared at the Met Gala last year. The impeccable posture, the perfectly fitted suit, the authentic confidence. Some men immediately began adjusting their ties, others avoided eye contact. A third group started talking louder to get attention. Why? Because true elegance exposes the insecurity of others. It exposes the flaws and shortcuts that many men try to hide behind expensive clothes or empty conversations. It is not just the appearance, it is the attitudes, the small behavioral details that separate ordinary men from extraordinary ones. Those subtle gestures that cannot be purchased in any luxury department store. The habits cultivated over years that communicate a clear message. This man has complete mastery over himself. Insecure men hate these attitudes because they cannot replicate them. They can buy the same suit, the same watch, frequent the same places, but something essential is missing. That intangible quality that makes everyone in the room notice your presence without you needing to announce your arrival. Men of class never give up these attitudes, not for convenience, not due to haste, not because of social pressure. They understand that these practices are not merely decorative, but fundamental for anyone who wishes to exercise genuine influence. In the world, I will reveal the 9 elegant attitudes that cause discomfort in the insecure, but that every man of true power and distinction cultivates daily as an inseparable part of his character. The first attitude that deeply disturbs the insecure is refined patience. I was at a dinner with executives where the waiter was taking time to serve the dishes. It was a 3-star Michelin restaurant in Manhattan, the kind that needs to be reserved months in advance. While others tapped their fingers on the table, repeatedly checked their watches, and released audible sighs, I noticed a particularly successful man who maintained a calm posture, conversing with genuine interest with his companions. His eyes did not shift to the kitchen every 30 seconds. His voice showed no growing irritation. His gestures remained fluid and controlled. When everyone was finally served, he waited for the last plate to arrive before beginning to eat. Despite his plate being the first placed on the table, he had waited exactly 7 minutes and 32 seconds. I timed it. The insecure hate this because they are slaves to their own anxiety. They cannot contain their primary impulses. They become visibly agitated when their desires are not immediately satisfied, like children in adult bodies. They are dominated by a constant urgency that contradicts true sophistication. An elegant man demonstrates self-control because he understands that patience is not weakness. It is a sign of complete mastery over oneself. This ability to wait without showing discomfort communicates a powerful message. You are not controlled by other people's time. You are the master of your own time. Elegant men know that true authority never needs to rush. Hurry is a confession that the situation is in control, not you. When you master this first attitude, you will immediately notice how people begin to observe you differently. Waiters offer more attentive service. Colleagues listen to your words with greater consideration. Women notice this rare and powerful quality, but this is just the beginning of your transformation. The second attitude that causes discomfort is absolute discretion. I noticed this at a business conference at the Four Seasons in New York. The room was filled with important businessmen and investors. While most were eager to share stories about their achievements, cars, watches, or fortunes, with volume inversely proportional to their real influence, there was a successful businessman who spoke little about himself, but showed genuine interest in others. His questions were precise and insightful. His listening was complete, without distractions from his cell phone or wandering glances around the room looking for more important people. He never mentioned that his company had just closed a $500 million contract, information I only discovered later when another participant told me admiringly. When someone recognized him and tried to praise him publicly, he skillfully redirected the conversation to a more inclusive topic. The insecure hate this attitude because they constantly need to validate their worth through the opinion of others. They are compulsive for external validation. Their conversations are an endless catalogue of achievements, possessions, and important connections, real or exaggerated. They transform every social interaction into a personal marketing campaign, without realizing how this reveals their deep insecurity. The elegant man knows that his value does not depend on the approval of others. He understands that talking about his own achievements is unnecessary when his actions, his presence, and his attention to detail already communicate everything. True wealth is silent, and true class never needs to announce its presence. It is felt. When you display this silent confidence, people automatically sense your strength and gravitate around you without you needing to make any effort to attract them. I'm about to reveal the third attitude that differentiates extraordinary men, and this can completely change how others perceive you. It is a quality so rare in today's world that its presence is almost shocking. The third attitude is generosity without expectation. I attended a charity event for underprivileged children at the Plaza Hotel, where I observed two distinct types of donors. Those who absolutely insisted that everyone know exactly how much they donated, taking elaborate photos for social media, holding giant checks, giving interviews to local journalists, and mentioning their contributions in every conversation for the rest of the evening. And then there was a man who made a substantial donation, 7 digits, with such discretion that only the organizers and I, who was nearby at the moment, noticed. He specifically requested that his name not be mentioned in the public acknowledgements. Later I discovered he was one of the city's greatest philanthropists, having silently funded hospitals, educational programs, and artistic initiatives for more than 2 decades. The insecure detest this attitude because for them, every action must generate immediate and visible returns, whether in the form of public recognition, future favors, or social prestige. They maintain precise mental accounting of each favor granted and expect equivalent or superior compensation. Their generosity is merely a disguised form of investment with expectation of high returns. The elegant man gives without expecting absolutely anything in return because he understands that true generosity is not transactional. It is not a networking strategy or a personal marketing tactic. He knows that helping others without fanfare does not diminish his power. On the contrary, it strengthens it in ways the insecure will never understand. The ability to contribute without seeking credit demonstrates a mental abundance that is extremely rare and valuable in today's world, obsessed with social media validation and instant recognition. This next attitude is especially powerful in professional environments. It will immediately separate you from the majority of men you encounter. Pay attention. The fourth elegant attitude is authentic humility. In an executive meeting at the headquarters of a Fortune 500 company, I witnessed a renowned CEO admitting he did not know the answer to a complicated question about emerging market regulations. The question came from a young analyst who had just joined the company. 1 month prior, the room fell silent. Everyone expected the CEO to deflect or offer a vague response that would mask his lack of knowledge. Instead, he smiled genuinely and said, "That is an excellent question, and I appreciate you bringing it up. To be completely honest with you, I do not have sufficient information to give you a thorough answer right now, but this is clearly important. Let me consult with our legal team and get back to you by tomorrow morning with a proper response." Meanwhile, just minutes earlier, other executives in the same meeting had invented elaborate answers to similar questions or tried to change the subject when faced with queries outside their expertise. They spoke with artificial confidence, using industry jargon to create the illusion of knowledge. The insecure consider admission of ignorance as weakness because they have built a fragile identity based on illusory perfection. They believe leaders must always have answers, that vulnerability diminishes authority, and that admitting gaps in knowledge will cause others to question their competence. The elegant man recognizes his limits naturally because his confidence does not depend on a facade of omniscience. His self-worth is not tied to being all-knowing. He understands that admitting what he does not know demonstrates genuine security and emotional intelligence. People trust those who are honest about their limitations more than those who pretend to know everything. The young analyst later told me he was more impressed by the CEO's candid response than he would have been by any attempt to fabricate an answer. This attitude creates an environment of authenticity around you that attracts valuable allies and builds teams based on trust rather than fear. You will notice a significant change in how people respond to you when you implement this next attitude in your life. The fifth attitude that causes discomfort in the insecure is genuine active listening. At a corporate dinner following a major industry conference in Boston, I observed a fascinating social dynamic unfold around a table of 12 executives. The conversation initially proceeded like dozens I had witnessed before. Most men anxiously waited their turn to speak, scrolling through their phones while others talked, preparing their next statement rather than absorbing what was being said. They frequently interrupted, cut off thoughts mid-sentence, and visibly lost interest when the topic strayed from their expertise or interests. But there was a remarkable exception. A particularly respected executive, who I later discovered had built a billion-dollar company from nothing over 20 years, approached conversation entirely differently. He listened attentively to each person, maintaining comfortable eye contact, nodding thoughtfully, and never once reached for his phone. When someone made a point, he would ask insightful follow-up questions that demonstrated he had truly processed what they said. That approach to market expansion you mentioned, what challenges did you encounter that surprised you? He would ask, or when you implemented that strategy, how did your team respond initially? His questions were never performative. They reflected genuine curiosity. When he finally spoke, people stopped eating to listen. They put down their phones. They leaned forward. He had earned their attention by first giving his own completely. The insecure hate this attitude because they are so concerned with appearing interesting that they forget to be interested. They view conversations as competitions to be won rather than connections to be formed. They believe that dominating the dialogue demonstrates importance, when in fact, it often reveals deep insecurity. The elegant man knows that the ability to truly listen is one of the rarest and most valuable skills in our distraction-plagued world. He understands that allowing others to speak does not diminish his authority. On the contrary, it strengthens his influence in ways that mere talking never could. When you genuinely listen, people feel valued, understood, and respected. Consequently, they not only value your presence, but actively seek it out in the future. This is one of the most subtle and powerful ways to exercise leadership, not through force or volume, but through the dignifying act of complete attention. This next attitude may seem simple, but it is surprisingly rare, and its absence is immediately noticed. The sixth elegant attitude is impeccable punctuality. I attended a high-profile charity gala at the Waldorf Astoria, where the invitation clearly stated 7:30 in the evening as the start time. As is unfortunately customary in certain circles, most guests treated this time as merely a suggestion. They arrived between 15 and 45 minutes late, considering this fashionably appropriate, as though their delayed entrance somehow increased their social significance. I observed groups huddled outside the venue, deliberately waiting to make their entrance well after the stated time. Some were even checking their watches to ensure they would not accidentally arrive on schedule. The event organizers, anticipating this behavior, had planned for everything to actually begin around 8:15, normalizing and accommodating the very disrespect that plagues professional and social interactions. However, there was one notable exception: an influential businessman whose net worth exceeded $2 billion and whose time was genuinely valuable by any objective measure, arrived exactly at 7:30, not a minute before or after. He entered without fanfare, greeted the initially sparse crowd warmly, and engaged immediately with the early program details that others would miss. The host later confided to me, "He is always like this. In 20 years, I have never seen him late to anything. Not once. I can literally set my watch by his arrivals." The insecure hate punctuality because they have absorbed the misguided belief that arriving late demonstrates importance or nonchalance. They think that making others wait proves their superior status, that their time matters more than everyone else's. This calculation reveals both arrogance and insecurity intertwined. The elegant man understands that punctuality is not about submission to other people's schedules, but about respect and integrity. It is about honoring your word, even in something as seemingly minor as an arrival time. When you are punctual, you communicate that you are a reliable person who keeps your promises in all matters, big and small. It demonstrates that you value not only your own time, but also that of others, that you consider them worthy of respect. This seemingly simple consistency builds a solid reputation that no luxury accessory, no expensive watch, no designer suit can buy. People may forget what you wore to the meeting, but they will remember that you valued them enough to arrive when you said you would. The next attitude I will share with you is frequently misinterpreted, but absolutely essential for men of true and class. The seventh attitude that bothers the insecure is the discreet defense of principles. At a business lunch, I witnessed when the conversation drifted to derogatory comments about an absent person. While most laughed or contributed more gossip, a respected executive simply said, "I do not know all the facts of this situation, so I prefer not to comment," and skillfully changed the subject. The insecure hate this because gossip and easy criticism are tools they use to feel momentarily superior. The elegant man refuses to elevate his status by bringing others down. He understands that participating in negative conversations about absent individuals does not demonstrate power, but fragility of character. The ability to maintain your principles without making grand moral declarations or embarrassing others is a mark of true social sophistication. This next attitude is particularly powerful because it is immediately perceptible in any interaction. The eighth elegant attitude is universal courtesy. At a social event, I observed how an influential man treated both the CEO of the host company and the parking attendant with exactly the same level of respect and attention. The insecure hate this because they have built a mental hierarchy where some deserve consideration and others do not. The elegant man understands that true class is not selective. He knows that treating all people with dignity is not a matter of superficial etiquette, but of deep character. This consistency in treating others, regardless of their social status or immediate utility, reveals an unshakable inner security. People perceive and respond to this authenticity, often unconsciously, but always powerfully. The final attitude I will reveal is possibly the most distinctive and the one that causes the greatest impact on perceptions. The ninth attitude that causes profound discomfort in the insecure is calmness under pressure. I witnessed this rare quality during a catastrophic Business crisis at a major technology firm where I was consulting. A critical server failure had caused a system-wide outage affecting more than 3 million customers. Financial losses were accumulating at a rate of approximately $100,000 per minute. Legal implications were mounting by the second. The executive floor had devolved into barely controlled chaos. People were shouting across conference rooms. A senior vice president was visibly sweating through his shirt. Another executive was frantically calling subordinates, his voice rising with each conversation. Two team leaders were engaged in mutual blame-shifting, voices cracking with emotion. Someone knocked over a coffee mug in haste, sending ceramic shards scattering across the floor, a fitting metaphor for the fragmentation of composure in the room. Then the CEO entered. His walk was unhurried, yet purposeful. His facial expression was serious but completely composed. He surveyed the scene briefly, then seated himself at the head of the conference table. Without raising his voice even slightly, he said, "Let us take a moment to gather ourselves. We have a situation that requires our best thinking, not our loudest reactions." The room fell silent. Over the next hour, I watched him methodically lead the team through a structured response process. He asked clarifying questions without accusation. He made decisions quickly but not hastily. When new problems emerged, his physical demeanor never changed. No dramatic sighs, no fist-pounding on tables, no visible anxiety. His voice remained at exactly the same volume and cadence, whether receiving good news or bad. By the 3-hour mark, the crisis had been contained. By the 5-hour mark, systems were being restored. And throughout, he maintained an unwavering composure that spread to everyone in his orbit. The insecure hate this attitude because they are slaves to their emotional reactions. They believe that visible distress signals appropriate concern, that raised voices communicate urgency, that stress responses demonstrate how much they care. In reality, these behaviors only broadcast their inability to maintain control of themselves, much less a complex situation. The elegant man understands that losing composure does not solve problems, it only creates more. He knows that staying calm is not just a matter of appearance, but a superior strategy for making effective decisions under pressure. Emotional reactivity literally impairs cognitive function, activating threat response systems in the brain that diminish access to the prefrontal cortex, where our most sophisticated decision-making occurs. The ability to remain centered when everything around is falling apart is not just admirable, it is magnetic. People naturally gravitate toward those who maintain stability amid chaos. They intuitively recognize that true power is not revealed in moments of ease, but in moments of extreme challenge, when maintaining equipoise seems almost superhuman. These 9 attitudes, refined patience, absolute discretion, generosity without expectation, authentic humility, genuine active listening, impeccable punctuality, discreet defense of principles, universal courtesy, and calmness under pressure, are the marks of a truly elegant man. The insecure despise them because they cannot convincingly imitate them. They cannot be bought or faked. They need to be cultivated daily. True elegance is not in the objects you own, but in the attitudes you embody. That is why the insecure can have all the luxury accessories and still seem like imposters, while a genuinely elegant man commands respect even wearing the simplest of outfits. If you desire to transform your presence and your impact, start incorporating these attitudes into your daily life. Do not try to adopt them all at once. This will only result in an unconvincing performance. Choose one of them, perhaps the one that resonates most with you, and practice it consistently for 30 days. Observe how the people around you begin to respond differently to your presence. Then add another, and another. In 6 months, you will have developed a new pattern of behavior that will dramatically elevate your influence and the respect others have for you. Remember, the most valuable Swiss watches in the world are not made on mass production assembly lines. They are created patiently, one precise component at a time. If you want to learn more about developing this authentic elegance that transcends fads and truly impresses, subscribe right now to the channel, activate the notification bell so you do not miss any video, and leave your like so we can reach more men who wish to elevate their standard of sophistication and power. Each week, we will delve into specific strategies that will transform not just your appearance, but your essence as a man. To conclude, remember, fashion is not luxury. It is power, and true power comes from within, from the attitudes you cultivate and the principles you defend daily, consistently, without exceptions. There are no shortcuts to excellence, no applications for instant character download. This is the path that extraordinary men choose to follow, not because it is easy, but because it is the only path worth taking. Which of these 9 attitudes do you already practice? Which was the most difficult to develop? Comment: Elegance is power. If this video added value to your life, and share it with that friend who you know needs to elevate his standard of sophistication.